Okay, I don't know what just happened. We'll try that again. I must have pressed the button, but swinging churn here. Swing the churn side to side instead of up and down. It actually says dairy swing churn on there. It would have been, you know, washing clothes. Those are irons, like the old people, you know, the irons just stick in the fire. There's a mouse trap right there. Another animal trap, a yoke to push oxen. Those are meat hooks. Working area. Over here, this is the dining room. Dining room. That there, this thing up here, is called a chasse-mouche or fly chaser. And you can see the chair right here. A slave would have pulled the chasse-mouche and it gets the flies away from the food. Now, if you ask me, that thing's pretty heavy, so you have to pull it pretty hard to get flies away from anything. So I'm pretty sure the only purpose of this chasse-mouche thing was actually to clearly indicate that you're the slave and we're not. Because you know, they could have had a fan or something instead of this thing, if you ask me. But this plantation had between 20 and 50 slaves, mostly men. This was a sugarcane plantation, so very back-breaking work. Lots of slaves were very afraid to go to Louisiana because they had heard how many slaves died from mosquito outbreaks and things like that. Many people died. Lots of people died from those sorts of things in this area in those days. The average price of a male slave, you know, someone my age back in 1830 or so, would have been $1,000 or $50,000 today. This plantation has the slaves are listed with the property. Some slaves are listed as Creole and some slaves are listed as black. So Creole just means the slaves who spoke French. And the whole Creole Acadian thing is a bit complicated. I can explain that in a minute, but $50,000 is the price of a young male slave. And I figured it out, but the average worker in China makes, let's say, 20 cents an hour. 20 cents an hour over the course of a person's productive lifetime is about $50,000. So we haven't gone too far from slavery, okay? That there is a plate warmer. Wish I had a camera. You put your hot coals in, put the food on, put the plate on top, and you have to carry this thing. It's kind of heavy, all the way to the dining room. The kitchen was always far away from the house because anything involving, well, first of all, you didn't want your house to burn down, and anything involving work or the slaves was always on the other side of the plantation, which explains a lot about racism in America, if you ask me, but and Louisiana. But slavery, the slaves were always on the other side of the plantation. They had to carry the food all the way to the main house. George Washington's plantation had 250 slaves, and by the time I heard, I haven't been to Mount Vernon, but I heard that by the time the food would have gone from the kitchen to the dining room, the food would have been cold. So it seems like it was a pretty long distance. Okay. The roof, as you can see there, is painted blue. Supposedly it's painted blue to keep the mosquitoes and birds from hanging around, and because they confuse it with the sky. But if you ask me, that's a load of bullshit, because mosquitoes and birds aren't that dumb, okay? They know it's not the sky. So there's lots of bugs, lots of birds and mosquitoes here, and bugs and things. So this is the game room. Here's a angles. There's a spittoon there way in the back, as you can see it. Card table. That there's a mustache cup. Mustache cup. You can not get any whiskey on your mustache. You can drink your whiskey. You know, a plantation often had lots of alcohol. Sugarcane plantation for sure, since they made rum. Put a whole rum sugar slaves trade there. This is the parlor. Here we go. Parlor. Very ornate rose-cut French furniture. Here we go. You can see there. And here we go. There's a picture here of Charles Olivier. You can see him, the grandson of Pierre Olivier, grandson, and his wife, sa femme, Marie Mouton. There we go. She had 7 children. I feel like that's an accomplishment, so I always tell people she had 7 children. Balcony. This is where I go to work every day, people. Okay, like I get to hang out in this park here, and listen to birds and the sun. It's nice and sunny. The house is really conditioned to not be sunny, so I have to go outside for the sun. But there's a garden here too, if you can see it. That oak tree over there is over 300 years old. It's called a Gabriel oak. They're all registered oaks, so that way we don't cut them all down, because all the other ancient oaks have been cut down. There's cypress trees there, all the moss. Moss was used for mattresses in those days, and bedding and things. So the big moss industry in Louisiana at one point. I actually met a guy who, for a living, he went on a pirogue in the bayou and collected moss. Bayou, by the way, means like a river. Pirogue is a boat, so he got in a boat in a river and collected moss for a living. Nice guy. Master bedroom, grande chambre. That's a rolling pin bed. It comes with a rolling pin that you lift off. You can see you lift this pin off to even out the mattress. Most people would just beat their mattress out with a broomstick, but these people are wealthy enough to afford a solid walnut rolling pin bed, so there you go. I definitely, when I give this tour, I make it a point to talk about slavery. I talk about race and class for sure when I give this tour, and how that plays in the history. I'm trying to work out ways to talk more about gender, but all I got so far is the picture of Marie Mouton, and I talk about the children, and sometimes I mention women were expected to just be baby makers. That cut out there is bousillage, mud, moss, clay, and lime, and that was used for insulation in the upper parts of the house. The French are also very Catholic, so I had a guy who told me he couldn't understand how they could be so religious and yet have slaves, but whatever. People have all kinds of rationalizations for everything they do, I guess. So, prayer bench, St. Anthony, I was told. This here, that there at the bottom is a pot-de-chambre, porte-de-chambre, chamber pot. This is another pot-de-chambre. Let's see. Can you see it? Here we go. It's a pot-de-chambre. It's a very fancy pot-de-chambre. Also, because they had slaves, they also had lots of artwork from that period. So this is, because they had lots of free time. So this is paper cutout on gold leaf, if you can see it. There we go. Paper cutout on gold leaf. Point coupé en fou d'or. This is human hair wrapped around wire. Very intricate. I don't know how well you can see it on here, or when I upload this, how good the quality will be, but I mean, clearly somebody spent years working on that. This is a girl's bedroom. Girls slept next to their parents. That's part of the whole sexist thing too. They weren't given as much privileges as boys were, but they at least got to sleep inside. Many boys slept outside. The average height of a woman in those days, if you can see, the bed's really short. The average height of a woman in those days was 4'11", and a man was 5'6". Very short people. And there's lots of chests as well. No closets. Closets, apparently they taxed you extra for closet space, so people put things in lots of chests. The boys slept outside, or they slept in the... My screen's